Hello everyone and welcome to Don't Be Bored. Today I'm joined by Eric, the designer of Mechromancers, a two-player deck-building duel with a real anime vibe. So welcome Eric, please introduce yourselves and let us know a little bit about the game.
Hey Oliver, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here. My name is Eric. I am the founder and creative lead of Which Way Games. And this game, Mechromancers specifically, was really inspired by the anime that I grew up watching and a lot of those Saturday morning cartoons in general. Really excited about the transparent overlays and how those interact with the bot part cards. And to speak more to that, in this game, your goal is to build a Mechrobot, power it with ghosts, and use that bot to destroy your opponent.
Let's straight away dive into that first phase, building the robots. With a number of bot part cards to choose from, how much variety is instilled into the experience by the different possible robot combinations?
It's hard for me to pinpoint the exact number of bot combinations you could do. I think technically it's close to 500, but let's just say it's in the hundreds. And even more when you're considering the inclusion of the spirit overlays and stuff like that. So the number of combinations is really quite high, and it's important to me, and has been throughout the process of creating this game, that you can build the bot that you want to build and fight the way that you want to fight. I want the player to have a personal connection with the bot that they build and with the way that bot fights, and we're building into that with future expansions and stuff like that too. There's lots more bots in the work, lots more spirit overlays and things like that. So we want that element of agency and customizability to be a really big part throughout the rest of that game's lifespan.
So with the aim of build the bot you want to build, how did you actually go about balancing building the robots, upgrading them via overlay cards and such?
The honest answer is with lots of help. We did tons of play testing. I'm going to give a little shout out to Game Weaver Games and Jonathan Weaver for some really helpful dev work. But it's, this game has been in the work for 5 years now, I think, which if you had told me it would be 5 years ago, I would have said, no way, that's way too long. It'll never take that long. I'm so far ahead. But balance is hard, and it does take a lot of work. So playtest, playtest, playtest. Find the card that's broken. Find all the cards that are broken.
5 years of development. That certainly is a commitment. And just, do you have a favourite spirit overlay card?
The right arm, no, sorry, I guess technically left arm of the bot, there is a Phantom class spirit overlay called Lost Hound that looks like a big dog skull that wraps around your character's arm. And I think that's always just, I don't know why even necessarily. It's kind of sad to think about a dead dog, but I love that it's there to help you fight in spirit. Just looks cool, feels powerful. I like it.
Well, there's no better reason than that, right? The anime style, it really shines through. What were your main sources of inspiration, and how did they actually impact the game's design?
Oh yeah, anime was such a huge inspiration behind this game. First and foremost, I think the sort of big two are Metabots and Shaman King. So both of those both of those shows were a huge inspiration for me growing up, and I wanted a little robo buddy in this game. I thought that was fun, but I also always loved the oversoul element of Shaman King, and I think in most cases I'm a theme first designer, and in this case that was really like the foundation of the game. It really started with a drawing of a robot arm and then a drawing of some ghosts on top of the robot arm, and that is really what kind of spiraled into a 5-year development pit that got us to this awesome thing that is Mechromancers now. Beyond that, aesthetically it's pulling from all these other things that I grew up watching and playing, things like Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Skylanders, Gundam, just tons of games and shows that I think kind of would make my younger self really happy. I did kind of design this game to be a game that I would be excited to play, a game that my younger self would have wanted to, to pick out off the shelf and take a look at and stuff like that. And I think I tried to channel, a lot of that energy and nostalgia into this game.
So you mentioned earlier those 5 years were full of playtesting, so I have to ask about that. What was your primary source of playtesting, and what was sort of a pro and con of that method?
So first, I have to give a huge shout out to Eric Alvarado of Talon Strikes Studio. I mentioned earlier that I drew a picture of a robot arm with some ghosts on it and stuff like that, to just kind of visually mock up what a bot part with like a soul overlay card on top of it might look like. And I posted it in like a Facebook group, and I was like, that's a cool idea. And then I'm really grateful. Eric Alvarado reached out to me and said, hey man, you should make that game. And then over the next couple of months, I was still at this point relatively new to like tabletop game design and stuff like that. I'd done some work on smaller things, but this game was by far the biggest sort of project I'd attempted, and I honestly didn't have a super great idea of where to start. And Eric was super kind and generous with his time and spent a lot of time, like play testing with me and, suggesting games for me to look at and, suggesting mechanics that I should consider, or telling me or like a thing that I had tried where that was working or not working. And that was sort of what really got us to that sort of like very first initial engine for Mechromancers. And then at that point, I was a little bit more comfortable playtesting with friends and family. Both my brothers have done a huge amount of playtesting for me. Some of my great friends have done playtesting for me. I mentioned Game Weaver Games earlier. They were super kind and did like a really elaborate print and play job so that they could test a bunch on their side and sent me some really, really helpful feedback. And then, all throughout this time, I'm doing digital play tests on like Tabletopia and stuff like that, with some really nice people who were, again, kind enough to donate their time towards play testing. And then, I'm not huge on the convention circuit necessarily, but PAX East for a couple of years, and the Boston Festival of Indie Games and stuff like that. Just so much very, very, very helpful feedback came from all of those experiences. It's super nerve-wracking to put your game in front of people at conventions. It's also so helpful, and you get so much feedback so quickly. It's terrible, and I can't recommend it enough. It was a great, great opportunity.
With all this experience that you've gained, what is one tip you'd pass on to a budding game designer?
So I would want to say first and foremost that designing games is fun and hard work. And, for those of you who are just getting into game design, you may know this already. I think a lot of game designers are really afraid to share their ideas at first. I think that they... game design can be like a really personal experience, and it feels like this thing is yours and you made it, and it's up to you to breathe life into it and share it with the world. And when it's still in its infancy, it feels vulnerable and fragile and stuff like, right? It's your brain baby, it's your design baby. And I've seen plenty of people who say, I'm not ready to share my design idea just yet. And I would strongly, strongly encourage you to, get over that hurdle, because in the nicest way possible, nobody wants to steal your idea. They have too many of their own ideas to snag one more. But there are plenty of people, so many people, that want to help you bring your idea to life. So like I said earlier, it is hard work. It's a lot of work, and the faster you ask for help from people who have the experience and know what they're doing, and the people who want to share that with you, the faster you are going to get to make your game.
I'm sure that is indeed a big hurdle for people to get past, but, well, you've given an absolutely fantastic reason there why not to jump it. But where can people go to find out a little bit more about Mechromancers?
People can find out more about Mechromancers on our website. You can go to www.whichwaygames.com/Mechromancers, and that's whichwaygames.com, which spelled like a pointy hat witch, and Mechromancers, like mech and romance. Mechromancers.
Links will be in the description box downstairs, but before you go check them out, one final question for Eric. What board game has the best box art?
This is so hard, especially as like maybe like an illustrator first and foremost. There's just so much good art in the tabletop game space. It's gonna. I don't know if I can pinpoint one that I think has the best art. I think Ivy Studios has a really polished aesthetic. Like Mythic Mischief is a really beautiful looking box. Great box, great design, very cool looking game. I also think like Brotherwise is doing really great stuff. They've got a bunch of different aesthetics going on. I think that the Super Boss Monster card game especially has a really fun box design, because it does like bring you back to that, like that era of Super Nintendo games, Nintendo 64. Like they really captured that and capitalized on that in the graphic design, and I think that's really successful. I love a nostalgia pull, so that really worked well for me. I think though, if I'm being like 100% true to myself, the boxes that feel most like games to me aren't actually boxes, and it's booster packs. And I think that the new iteration of the Digimon card game has the best booster pack design I've seen in a minute. It's like a Cluster booster pack design, but it does just, I think it captures that anime feel that that is so much a part of the show and the other games and things like that. But it looks exciting. Those booster packs are the first ones that I want to go get, go pick up, go touch, go hold. Like, they are the most exciting game in the most like palatable format for me. Visually, that's just I think they just knocked it out of the park there.
I love a unique answer, so what a fantastic pick there. And that wraps us up. So thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much again for giving me the chance to talk about my game Mechromancers. And yeah, thanks for the ride.
And until next time, go and check out the Kickstarter campaign, which is live right now, and have a mech-filled good day.